welcome if you're new to Stoicon and if you're just getting interested in Stoicism. And Stoicism is resurgent at the moment for a whole bunch of reasons. But really, I think, people have been interested in Stoicism for a long time, but just hadn't had an opportunity to find each other and communicate. So I like to think of there as being a Stoic diaspora. The Stoics are spread out all over the world. And it's really the internet that's allowed people to form online communities and for Stoics to find one another for the first time and do things together online. If you lived in a little town or village, like in the past, it was kind of hard to form a community around Stoicism. But now the Stoics scattered all over the world that can attend conferences online and engage in conversations online. So there are lots of them that are kind of spread out. And the internet has allowed us to run these events that allow people to really learn how other people are applying Stoicism in practice in daily life. And really, the clue's in the name. Stoicism was about the Stoa. It was a place where people met on the edge of the agora, facing the Acropolis, and anybody could come. It was open to immigrants, the rich, the poor, which was unusual in ancient Athens. The gymnasia where philosophy was taught were much more exclusive. And the Stoa is a return to the place where Socrates did philosophy, in the marketplace, in the street, in the agora. And that's what we have today with the internet. It's an opportunity for people all over the world to start talking philosophy outside the ivory towers of academia and learning from one another, from their shared experience about its benefits and the practical applications of Stoicism as a philosophy of life. So one of my favorite things to talk about is anger. Because in the field of psychotherapy, there are three main categories of negative emotion: anxiety, depression, and anger. And we mainly see people who are anxious or depressed. And we don't see as many people who are angry, because angry people think that you need therapy because you've got a problem. It's an externalizing emotion. So angry people tend to blame other people. And usually when they do jostle up in therapy, it's because they've been referred by someone else. Either a partner or a spouse, or in an institution like a school or a prison, or in the military, someone might be referred for anger management. And so angry people usually think everyone else needs therapy and not them. And for that reason, anger is, in a sense, massively under-addressed as a psychological problem. All these angry people out there are kind of dodging the bullet of therapy. Whereas anxious and depressed people are falling over themselves to get into therapy and seek help usually. The angry ones are kind of not. And if you look on the internet, I think you'll quickly notice that there's a lot of anger out there and it affects other people. It's perhaps the most interpersonal of emotions. And I therefore think that anger is the royal road to self-improvement, because it's the stone that the builders have neglected or cast away that becomes the cornerstone of self-improvement. Everybody ignores anger, really. The majority of people tend to. There's not much that people really do to address their anger, and they could do a lot to improve it. And the Stoics knew this. And so they talked extensively about anger, and it becomes one of the main things that they focus on. And we have an entire book on Stoic psychotherapy for anger, which is still considered a classic by cognitive behavioral therapists and experts on anger management, incidentally, called On Anger, they imaginatively titled On Anger by Seneca. Also, the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius is, to a large extent, a book about anger. He talks a lot about anger in that book. He admits that he has a problem with anger in the Meditations, and he lists 10 cognitive therapy strategies for dealing with anger. And yet when people talk about Stoicism online, the people that are interested in Stoicism, I don't know if you've noticed this, but it's become kind of trendy recently. It's very popular with the young people, like bubblegum and sneakers and things like that. It's become trendy. So everyone's talking about Stoicism, but there's not really that much discussion about what Stoicism tells us about overcoming our anger. And I think if we were to address our own anger and the anger of other people, not only would it benefit our mental health, but it might actually help to improve discourse about politics and ethics in a way that would potentially improve the society in which we live.